So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much to our experts who are with us here today and also to our attendees. Thank you for joining us for this nice topic of the day called Tips for a Perfect Beach Body. And we're going to be talking about that and what that all means in a few minutes. But first, I want to introduce our panel of experts, or I'm going to ask them rather to introduce themselves. And Jessica, I'm going to ask you to go first for everything today because Jessica can only stay with us until 12:30, I believe. So I'm going to ask you to go first.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jessica Shapiro, and I am a registered dietitian and diabetes educator. I am currently just starting a new role at Montefiore at the Montefiore Einstein Advanced Care, and that's in Elmsford, New York.
Thank you, Jessica. Sariel?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sariel. I am a dietitian here at the Bronx Health Collective, and that's located in the South Bronx.
Denise?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denise Roma, and I am a registered dietitian and also, like Jessica, certified diabetes educator. I am at Montefiore, Nyack. I work with Sandra, and we are here in Nyack, New York.
Thank you. Noreen?
Hi, everyone. My name is Noreen. I'm a dietetic intern, and I'm working at the Montefiore Bronx Health Collective.
Thank you. Ilani?
Hi, I'm Ilani Blumenfeld. The name of my company is IBG Nutrition, and I've had my own company since 2004 and have focused mostly on weight loss, weight management, both on individual counseling, private counseling, and also work with gyms and corporations doing weight loss challenges and weight loss meal planning. So mostly individuals, groups, and corporations.
Thank you very much to all. And let's get started. After I introduce myself, my name is Sandra Arevalo, for those of you who don't know me yet, and I'm the Director of Community Health and Wellness Programs here at Montefiore, Nyack. And I'm also a registered dietitian by training and a certified diabetes educator. So just to put that there. But so I'm very excited because, you know, I'm among my pool of people. So that's great today. So let's start discussing when we say perfect body, right? What that means. Is there really a perfect body that we need to be showing at the beach? Jessica?
I think the perfect body is the body that you feel comfortable in. And I don't think that it should be defined as a certain number, but what you can feel comfortable being.
Mm-hmm. Sariel?
Yeah, I agree with Jessica. I think whatever you feel comfortable in and what celebrates you, what makes you fills up your cup, those are really things that we're looking for when we're thinking of the perfect body.
Denise?
So I thought about this when Sandra asked me to be on the panel, and I said, you know that when I was in my 20s, being beach perfect looks very different than it does to me today. And so in my 20s, it was about dieting and looking great in a bikini and getting the best tan. And here I am ready to enter the sixth decade of my life. And being beach perfect now means eating healthy, using lots of sunscreen, and getting a really good one-piece bathing suit. So it can change over our lifetime. And I think that's the message we're all going to share with you today.
Mm-hmm. Noreen?
Yes, I completely agree with what everyone has been saying. The media really perpetuates this ideal that is unachievable. And of course, we know that body ideals change decade after decade, as Denise just said. So it's important that we understand that the perfect beach body is how we feel. And as long as we're happy with it, then that should be what's most important.
Mm-hmm. Ilani? You're muted.
Sorry, it's because of construction. Don't want any noise in the background. I agree. I think it's so relative what that can mean. Both to oneself, right? So like Denise said, what my vision of a perfect body was 20 years ago is different than it is now, but I still, you know, I still like to keep metrics. Even like I have a lot of clients and people I've talked to that said, I don't want to ever get on the scale. I do still think that there can be ways to measure without being too tough on oneself or on one's clients, and just being really honest with oneself in terms of what our own version of perfection is, and being fair, because things change. But also it's also relative from one person to another. So if you were compared two people who are 5'4" to each other, their perfect body is going to be very different. And at the end of the day, it's what everyone feels comfortable in. Some people like a lot of meat on their bones, and some people like to be thinner. And then also you bring in healthy, right? So being a healthy beach body is much more important if you're able to eat healthy meals throughout the day and you're not starving yourself for that perfect beach body. So yeah, it's kind of like a loaded question. It's a good one, Sandra.
So Eleni, you bring up a very good point, and that actually it's the perfect opening for my next question. There is the perfect body or perfect beach body, but there is also the healthy body, right? So what should we really aim for in terms of perfection? Maybe not in the perfect size or shape, but health-wise. Jessica?
Yeah, there are definitely lots of things that we can look at health-wise. And again, it's going to be very individual to each person. I think it's really important that people are in tune with keeping up with all their preventative doctor's appointments and their lab values, making sure that the choices you're making are healthful as well. So I know many times I speak to people and it's years later down the road that they realize their diet is so bad it's impacting their health. So get a hold of your diet earlier on, and it's going to be more helpful later on. So I think looking at knowing your numbers, knowing what your family history is, so that you can use that as a guide as well.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying numbers, family history, doctor's appointments. Sariel, anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think when we're thinking of what health means to a person, we also want to take into account the environment and the social determinants of health that they have, access to food. All these things play a role in the way that a person can be healthy. And we want to, as providers, find ways to support them in their health goals, which include providing them resources that they may be missing out on, in addition to some of the things that Jessica shared.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, I want to just remind our participants that this is an interactive session. So if you have any questions, please write them in the chat or the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to share the questions with our experts. So please go ahead and do that. Denise.
So, you know, in one of my roles here at Montefiore Nyack is working with people who have pre-diabetes or are at high risk for getting type 2 diabetes. And so, you know, part of that focus is helping these people to be more physically active, and also, if they need to lose weight, 5 to 10% of a weight reduction. Why? Because a lot of the research has shown for this population, even losing 5 to 10% can yield positive results in terms of preventing type 2 diabetes. You know, that may not get them to, let's say, their most perfect weight, so to speak, but that could be enough to put them in a healthy body, to put them in a place where they can prevent disease.
Mm-hmm. Noreen?
So I think it's really important to really ask yourself how you feel on a day-to-day basis, which will essentially determine how you're doing health-wise and whether that weight is suitable to you.
Eleni? Muted.
When you said healthy, a few things came up in my mind, and that's when I think about the holistic approach to wellness, right? So for me, the four things that come to mind immediately are diet, physical exercise, mental health, and sleep. And oftentimes, I mean, there's so many indicators on how important sleep is in wellness and in health. So I think that to be healthy, it really is like when you're in balance with all of these things.
And, you know, there are different things that I think we need to be looking at when we say numbers, and a few of you said numbers in a number of ways. So numbers, what do we really mean by numbers? What numbers should we be looking for?
So I'll start, since I spoke about prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. And, you know, so numbers that we're looking at certainly are BMI, body mass index, and sort of where a person is. You know, it's a screening tool. It's not perfection by any means, but, you know, where somebody is in terms of their weight for their height. And then other numbers are in blood work, right? And so what a person's blood sugars are, or, you know, what we like to call the A1C, their average sugars. You know, this can give us good markers in terms of a person's prediabetes risk status. So those are some of the numbers I was referring to.
Mm-hmm. Any other numbers that we should be looking into?
Yeah, I personally don't necessarily recommend relying on the BMI because we know that's an invalidated tool, doesn't really take into context Black and brown bodies. So we do want to focus on the numbers inside the body, things like our blood values, like you mentioned, A1C, ALT, AST, these liver enzymes that also tell us a story of what's going on. We also want to be paying attention to blood pressure values. Lipid levels are also something that indicates other things going on. So when we're thinking of like the perfect beach body or the perfect body for ourselves, we want to really pay attention to the cues that your body's telling you every day long, and relying on those checkups with your doctor every year. Hopefully you're going to see what's going on inside and get a little bit more of an in-depth analysis to your individual story.
And also a number on the scale does mean something, because if you start seeing it go up really quickly or going down really quickly in a short period of time, that might indicate something going on. So understanding yourself for numbers in terms of the scale is still important. And then just more broadly, I mean, also thinking about in a holistic way, like how many hours are you sleeping at night? That's a number, right? How many minutes are you exercising each day? So those are all numbers we can keep track of too.
Mm-hmm. And Jessica, you also mentioned the importance of following up with your doctor, you know, so when we go, you know, there are people who are like, why do I need to go to the doctor? I don't feel bad. So why do we need to go to the doctor regularly? What are those things that we need to be checking for?
Well, I mean, we want to prevent things from happening, or recognizing things earlier on, or prevent things from happening before it gets too late. So, and nutrition-wise, I mean, weight-wise, I mean, if is keeping track of everything, your preventative tests, you know, keeping up on, depending on what year you are in life, those are really important. I mean, everything from, you know, going to get your mammogram to your my mind just went blank. I don't know why.
Endoscopy or colonoscopy.
Thank you. I'm like colonoscopy. Exactly. You know, we are all busy individuals. But if you go to have a primary care provider, I'm sure they can help guide you to make sure that you have the correct appointments based on your age.
I was also going to mention two other things that I think are important, especially as we talk about weight loss and beach bodies. And I mean, I personally have Hashimoto, so I think checking the thyroid is really, really important. I mean, for me, it affects me. I'm always tired. I can sleep 8 or 9 hours and take a nap and have 3 coffees and I'm still tired. So that goes with the whole holistic approach. And also something that no one has mentioned is cholesterol. I mean, cholesterol is super important. And I think as we get older, also genetics plays a larger role in whether we have cholesterol. Taking myself as an example, also, I'm basically a vegetarian and my cholesterol numbers were always perfect. And then this year, I was like, this has to be a mistake. It can't be right. And then I went again and the numbers are high, and both of my parents take statins because genetically, so sometimes you say, okay, you can do whatever you can in diet, but genetics plays a role. And going to the doctor and having that baseline of, okay, I know that 10 years ago, my cholesterol numbers were amazing. And 10 years later, I'm probably eating the same or even healthier, and my cholesterol doesn't look the same. So I think those annual checkups are really good, and you can look back at them. Everyone has medical records in every single hospital system, and you'll really be able to compare what things look like from year to year.
And I would just like to add, I guess, on to what Eleni was speaking about also. I also work with people who come to our cardiac rehab, right? And so these are people who have had major cardiac events, and here they are now trying to learn how to be healthier. And it's interesting because most of the people I meet, so typically they tend to be 50s, 60s, 70s years old. And, one of the things when we're talking about this Beach Perfect, many of these people, when I interview them, they say over the years, they have progressively gained weight, and not in a good way, right? Through poor habits, through poor lifestyle choices. And so I think when we're talking about this balance, certainly, becoming an unhealthy weight, let's put it that way, can put us at risk for some of these really serious health conditions, right? And so, as I said, these people are now being engaged in cardiac rehab 3 times a week. They're trying to relearn how to eat healthier, and many times get rid of these excess pounds that they have put on over the years throughout their adult life. And it's an eye-opener for sure.
And to close our conversation about numbers, we have a question here. Is A1C 6.1 good or bad? Who would like to answer that question?
I can answer that as my goodbye question. So a 6.1 would put you at a risk for diabetes. It's a really great time to look for maybe a diabetes prevention program that can help you in preventing the full-blown diabetes. So good or bad, I mean, I don't think there's an answer if it's good or bad, but you are at a risk for diabetes.
Now, also, I think that we go back to the relativity of things, right? A 6.1, if you have diabetes and you were a 9 3 months ago, and now you're a 6.1, like, great. It's like a hug to you because you're doing amazing. Now, if you were a 5.2 a year ago and now you're a 6.1, then we're raising a yellow flag here saying, as Jessica said, it could be that you're entering diabetes, you're in pre-diabetes right now, so it's something to look for. So again, going back to that relativity issue that we were just talking about, and how we feel and how our numbers change with time. So also you were talking about some of the habits that we have that will be good to change. And Jessica, feel free to just say goodbye because I know that you have to go. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, there are some habits that prevent us from having that perfect body, whatever it looks like. So let's talk about some of those habits. Maybe each one of you would like to mention one that you feel strongly about.
Yeah, so I'll start us off. So I think one of the habits I think is key is physical activity. And, I think we all know as panelists, what the health guidelines say and what, we would like people to achieve. And that is 30 minutes, 5 days a week. But the other side of the coin is we have to meet the person where they are, right? And so, if you're currently not doing anything and you've been sedentary for a good many years, perhaps starting with 5 minutes a day is going to be something. And, as you achieve that, you start to feel better, right? And so as that feels better, then you can increase that. You can start to work into your lifestyle ways of moving more, right? All the things we've heard about, like parking further away, taking stairs when you can. You know, Ilanit made a great example of something I wasn't even familiar with. She's at a desk right now where she can pedal. So, you know, with COVID, so many people are working from home and they became sedentary and they gained weight and they became unhealthy in their overall health habits. So it's kind of reinventing ourselves. So physical activity for me is a big one.
I'm happy to post also here the name of the bike. I really recommend it to everyone who's sedentary because of their work, that they have to sit for hours. Because the first day I got it, I was like, wow, I can't believe how many calories I burn, not even noticing like how much you're, you know, how active you can be during the day and still work.
Yeah, that would be great. If you want to just put the name in the chat box, that would be great. Noreen, what is one of the habits that you think that people need to change and improve?
I think not listening to our hunger and fullness cues, because we're either distracted while we're eating, whether it's watching television or scrolling on social media, or when you're so busy that you can't really sit down to eat. I think practicing mindful eating, trying as much as possible to sit down and with family if you have, and really paying attention to your body, because this really prevents us from listening to our natural innate cues, and can either promote undereating or overeating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That is really that's a good point, actually, because a lot of us, I have to tell you, at work, you can ask my coworkers, I just eat something here, you know, while I'm working. I never feel that I really eat lunch. So it's true. Thank you for that. Sariel?
I think in addition to everything else that folks had said, something that is really important that gets overlooked is rest, and like the different types of rest and how they play a role in your overall health and how you're feeling and everything. So we're thinking of things like actually going to sleep, actually like doing something that fills your spirit up. All these different types of rest play a role in helping you feel like the healthiest version of yourself. And then also being mindful of what your body is communicating to you all day long in terms of how it's feeling, if it needs rest, honoring that. Really listening that way helps change the game for your personal goals towards your body.
Thank you. Ilanit?
So only because you said beach body, and I have been counting calories forever, and I think that it really, really helps. Again, it's, you know, we need metrics to be really honest with ourselves. And I think that counting calories is a really good way. It's the oldest science, right? Like calories in, calories out. If you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight. And it also helps to know, you know, once you start keeping a journal or something, you ask yourself, do I really need that many calories throughout the day for my exercise level? So for me, I think the number one thing that I recommend for my clients and for myself, I mean, besides physical activity, and all of them going hand in hand, but you know, they do say beach bodies are made in the kitchen. So calorie counting, very important as I see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about that, like some dietary tips that we can have. And, you know, I think that we need to take into consideration there are some people who would like to lose weight, and there are some people who would like to gain weight because they feel that they don't have enough to show at the beach. And then some people think they have too much to show. So what would be, let's start with some tips to gain a little bit of weight, and what kind of weight do we really want to gain? Ilanit, let's continue with you.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I think it's actually harder to gain weight than to lose weight. Like when you have a client that has told you, try me, you know, they'll come in and they say, try me. I've tried everything. I mean, obviously fat has 9 calories per gram, much more than everything else. So if there's no dietary restrictions, you have to look at that. But I think good old milkshakes, it's hot in the summer. So loading up on milkshakes, and high fat, healthy foods. So avocado, nuts. And I think it's also, when I think about weight gain with the few I've worked with, it's expanding your stomach, right? Typically people who need to gain weight naturally aren't eating a lot. So it's like baby steps, like everything seems to be baby steps, right? 5 minutes of exercise is better than no exercise. So increasing your calories slowly, I think, is much easier. And that's a few of the things I can think of.
Denise, sounds like you want to add something.
Yeah, and when you first asked it, I was in Illinois camp, and I said, my goodness, weight gain is not something for me professionally I deal with a lot, right? Most of the clients I'm working with, they're battling these excess pounds that they have accumulated over many, many years. But when I think about it, I do think maybe eating more often if you're trying to gain weight. You know, it's pretty difficult to get those calories in the traditional 3 meals a day, let's say. So, you know, perhaps incorporating some healthy snacks. I'm in Illinois camp on, you know, we certainly don't want to be putting bad fuel in our body, right? We want to put good fuel in there. And so calorie dense, nutrient dense type of foods, you know, I'm thinking of things like bananas with peanut butter on top of it, avocado toast, a great one as well. Nuts, you know, fantastic, heart healthy, nutrient dense. And so, you know, teaching somebody it is possible, getting creative and, you know, to put yourself sort of on this schedule where every few hours you're trying to refuel and put some stuff in your body. And I think smoothies are a great one too. For myself, I'm not a breakfast eater, never have been. I'm a nutritionist. I know better. I know it's important. The truth is I'd rather just have a cup of coffee, but I know that's not good, right? So I have a smoothie for breakfast and put good stuff in it, sip on it while I'm getting ready for work, and it works.
Thank you, Saria.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this question up, because I think it's really important to remember that thinness is not the ideal body type when we're thinking of the world. Like, there's other cultures that prefer other types of bodies, and those are the bodies that folks might be striving for. I know personally in my culture, if you're thin, something's wrong, and they're going to want to make sure that you're eating enough so that you can stop losing weight. So we want to be really mindful of like the ideal that we are talking about when we are having conversations like these. And then something unrelated to food that the other dietitians shared is, yes, you want to be eating more frequently, but also thinking of the type of movement that you're doing. We want to have, for folks that want to increase their weight, we want to incorporate strength building exercises as opposed to cardio based exercises. So that looks like weightlifting, body weight exercises, things that are really going to use the muscles, and the more larger muscles as possible, the better, because that's where you're going to increase your strength. Yeah, that's it for that.
Noreen, anything to add?
I don't have much to add regarding weight gain, but if someone wants to lose weight in a gentle, sustainable manner, I think it's important to incorporate very small bouts of activity throughout your day, instead of like exerting yourself in like a 30-minute session to the point of exhaustion, and then you're just laying down and doing nothing for the rest of the day. Just try to incorporate more natural movements into your day, like walking more or doing chores in the house, and just keeping active.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to me, you know, we're talking here about gaining weight, but nobody mentioned fries and burgers and hot dogs and soda. So why not? Because I know that a lot of people who might be willing to gain weight will be like, ice cream, you know, like all or chips or things like that, you know, that we don't really, all the don'ts, you know, it's like, oh, it's time for all the don'ts. As a matter of fact, I know a lot of people who can get pregnant, and they are like, oh, time to gain weight and eat everything I want and all the junk I want. So why didn't you guys mention that?
I can go first. I personally didn't mention it because I already have an all foods fit approach to all my counseling. So all those foods are already in there if a person wants to eat those things. We just want to increase, like I said, movement that increases your muscles and some of the other foods that everybody mentioned. But you're right. It didn't even occur to me to like call them out.
So, Saria, you're saying yes to burgers. Yes? Okay. Any other thoughts?
I mean, I think
summer, remember, barbecue, burgers, hot dogs.
I think everything in moderation. I absolutely believe that every food fits, but I do believe in 80-20. So 80% of the foods that I typically recommend are high fiber, low saturated fat. And again, my focus is longevity and health. And we know that, you know, for our cholesterol and our sugar and other metrics that we follow are too high, then it can bring other health problems beyond our perfect beach body. So, but definitely, I mean, I think summer barbecues, everyone should enjoy a really good burger. My favorite 20% food is French fries. And my friends make fun of me because they're like, everywhere you go, you order a salad that's amazingly delicious. And I'm like, and bring me French fries. So I can't imagine life without French fries and chocolate. Yeah.
Yes, Denise, looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, so listen, I'm certainly a believer in the 80-20 also. I just think it's a good balance in life. But when Sandra had asked me to be on this panel, I had gone on the Academy's website, and they had a really good 2-pager tips, and it was called Sand, Surf, Gradients, and it was in August of 2021. And it was really good because it kind of spoke about the summer, the beach, which is what we're all talking about. And it talked about the things that are typically available when we go to the beach at the concession stands, just what you said, the burger, the fries, the soda. And listen, not that there can't be a place for those, but on the flip side, there are good choices as well, right? And when we go to the beach, we tend to sweat. You know, it's hot. And so wouldn't it make sense to fuel our bodies with good stuff? There are good choices that we can get, right? Some places, some of the concessions do have healthy sandwiches. Some of them do have healthy beverages, or, you know, for myself, I like packing my own cooler and just throwing a bunch of good stuff in there, you know, from frozen watermelon, frozen grapes, healthy beverages instead of Coke. Why not fizzy things with some fruit slices in it? So, you know, again, having that 80-20 rule, but knowing that there are good options that we can enjoy that make us feel good and satisfied.
Mhm. Okay, so, and Noreen, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on to what Denise was saying. Of course, it's very important to keep hydrated, especially at the beach when there's so much sunlight and you're sweating, but not just with water. It's important to take something that has minerals. So coconut water, mineral water is very important to replenish those electrolytes, because when you deplete those, it can contribute to things like headaches and feelings of fatigue.
And let's take some time to answer some of these questions here. Anne-Marie says, I recently saw an article that discussed people who had COVID showed elevated levels of triglycerides. If they are getting blood work shortly after recovering, do these levels go back down over time? Does any of you know about that? So high triglycerides after COVID. I know for sure that people with diabetes are at a higher risk to get COVID because they are somehow immunosuppressed. And also because of the stress, either due to COVID or also emotional stress, can raise your blood sugar levels. And I imagine it can also impact your triglycerides, because usually when the blood sugars are higher, your triglycerides are also higher. So it might be caused by stress, for as much as I know. And yes, you know, once the stress is better, or, you know, gets improved and there is not so much stress, it is expected that the blood sugars and the triglycerides will regulate themselves and go lower. Denise, as a CDE, what do you think?
You know, I know I read an article, and I wish I could remember all the details, but it was after COVID, and there was an article in one of the journals that did say, in fact, they did see an increase in diabetes diagnosis post-COVID in hospitalized patients. So I think that goes along with what you're saying, Sandra, that perhaps If there was a diagnosis of diabetes, we know that you can often see high triglycerides then as well. And I think we know that as blood sugars get in control, typically triglycerides also come down. So perhaps the best way to know is obviously to retest.
And another question from Meneas, I have been reading more often about sleeping, which is good for improving body health. If I get my 8 hours, 5 to 7 days per week, is it natural? So I guess the question is, how much sleep should we get?
I think that that is a good amount of sleep to get. But whenever patients do tell me like how much they're sleeping, I ask like, how do you feel when you wake up? Because if you're sleeping all that time and you're still feeling tired, then we should talk about what else is going on, your nighttime routine, any other things that could be happening, stress in your home environment, things like that. But if you're sleeping like long hours and you're also still waking up tired, like we want to, like a number is a number, but we want to ask more questions about the number to see like the total story.
And I think adding to what Zariel said, that, you know, different phases of life, different age groups, you know, we know when people are younger, teenagers, adolescents, they need a lot more sleep. And then as we age, sometimes we can function on, when I say less, I mean a good amount still, but I'm sure somewhere between 7 and 9 hours is probably the sweet spot. And it probably depends on what decade you are in your life. And as Zariel said, also, how do you feel when you wake up? I think that's a really good indicator. If you wake up refreshed and feeling well, then probably you've had that perfect number. And I think we all know as nutritionists as well that, you know, good sleep means good habits during the day, right? When you're fatigued, any of us, what happens? You make less desirable choices, right? In your eating habits for the day and your exercise habits. So getting that good rest is a predictor of how we're going to function the next day and how well we're going to do our own self-care.
I think you're talking about if you need a lot of chocolate during the day, you're not sleeping enough. Well, okay, that's another question. Ilanit, go ahead.
Yeah, I also think the relativity thing. I mean, I've mentioned how much sleep I need. My husband needs much less, but I also want to talk about like sleep habits, and I call it sleep hygiene because a lot of people have really bad sleep hygiene. I mean, my teenagers included, you know, I couldn't go to bed. You're on your phone until like the very last minute, and then your brain is wired, getting those blue light glasses. I do think that it's really important to have like some sort of a routine if you want your sleep to improve, and there's different ways to go about it, and having sleep goals. There's a lot of watches now that monitor your sleep, which you can really track a lot right now in terms of what's your ideal sleep, how much deep sleep you're getting versus not. And just again, with anything in life, I recommend setting a goal, and definitely agree 7 to 9, they say, is ideal. One other thing I want to add is, I can't remember where I read, it was someone, I think it was a famous person talking, that they said that when they were younger, it used to be cool to say, oh, I can get I'm fine with 5 or 6 hours of sleep. Now that has all changed, and like, it's okay. I think Jennifer Lopez said it. She's like, now it's okay. You can still be cool and admit I slept 8 hours the night before. It doesn't mean that you're lazy or not productive. So just want to add that.
I have a teenager too, and every time that I hear about those all-nighters, I go like, seriously? Like, as if that were the best thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, when is the worst thing? Yes. For more tips, if you're not sleeping enough, or you're not sleeping well, or you don't feel rested in the morning, please go to our Montefiore website or our YouTube channel. You just go to Google and put community chats Montefiore, because we recently had a whole session on tips to sleep better. So for more tips, let's go there and find more. Okay. There was something else that I was going to ask you now. Of course, you know, we got deviated from the topic. So we're talking about losing weight. So we're talking about exercise, nutrition. So what other tips you think that you can get people, you know, like easy tips that they could do Denise was talking about packing their own cooler, but for example, if I don't have time to pack my own cooler or I don't feel like it. And I think that it's also important to talk about, you know, especially now in the summer, as I was saying, is these many barbecues with not all of them serve a lot of healthy food. How do we balance when we have like a bad day? Is there a way to balance following up after I've had, you know, a lot of the wrong foods, so to call them that way, or the high calorie foods? So any tips for balancing out? Elanit?
Sure. So a lot of things come to mind when you say that. I think that some common ideas that people go through in their head is like, you know what? I had a bad day yesterday. The day before was terrible. So I call it F it mode, you know, where like, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna continue this bad week. And then next week I'm gonna start. I think it's really important. Again, mindfulness, we haven't really spoken about much. I think mindfulness is super, super important to just take a minute and say every day is different. Every day is new. And just because you've had a bad 3 days doesn't mean that it has to domino into a terrible week. So just really taking every day for face value and not being too hard on oneself. And then planning ahead, right? So I think that to be successful, you really need to have a plan. You need to have your refrigerator stocked up with good food. You need to figure out what time you're eating next. And yeah, I'll think a little bit more as people answer, but I don't think that going into a bad week should be that way. It can be done day by day.
Okay, Noreen?
So this is not really diet related, but I think it's important for you to not be so hard on yourself. Don't feel so guilty. It's the summertime, barbecues happen, but it's, you know, during the winter, you're going to be at home or resuming your normal routine. So you're not going to have that opportunity to indulge in these kinds of foods. So just enjoy yourself and go back to your normal routine the day after. And of course, just try to stay hydrated, consume lots of fruits and vegetables. If you want to be healthier, you want to make sure that it's a sustainable approach, and beating yourself up about one bad day or one bad week is just, it's not good for the long term.
Thank you, Noreen. Sariel?
Not necessarily food related, but when we're thinking of feeling like good in our body during the beach season, we want to have clothes that make us feel good in our body. So as the winter is shedding, like the clothes that didn't fit us last summer, like donate those clothes, right? We don't need to hold on to things that don't necessarily make us feel comfortable, and treat yourself to clothing that celebrates the body, the way that you want to look in your body, and dress comfortably for when you are going to the beach, when you are going out to the barbecues, whatever the occasion may be. You want to be really mindful and intentional in how you're going to look so that you can feel comfortable in your body, while also making sure that you're eating in line with how you want to feel and moving in line with how you want to feel.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that I was just thinking about that, how clothes and how you take care of yourself, and you know, if you're a girl or not, if you're wearing makeup or not, or if you're doing your hair or not, you know, that can make you feel certain way, right? So thank you for mentioning that. Denise?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's about balance and moderation, right? And, you know, for me, summer's about ice cream. That's one of my favorites. But, you know, do I choose the extra large size when I get it? No, I choose the small size, so that this way I can treat myself, let myself have it, enjoy it, and do it in a moderate kind of way. And, you know, just to add in terms of the barbecues everybody was speaking about, you know, we have a lot of barbecues that go on all summer long. And listen, it's not the worst idea to bring a healthy item with you when you go to your family or friends barbecue, right? Doesn't mean you're not going to have a hot dog or have a hamburger, but why not bring, you know, some grilled vegetables or a healthy fruit salad or some sparkling water, right? I recently, I have to share this quick story with you. So one of my coworkers here, she was sharing with me that her daughter goes to camp, And she's, she's somebody I have spoken with about health and things like that. And she said, so her daughter was going to camp. It was a super hot day. She didn't tell her daughter what she was going to pack in her cooler bag, but she put in a frozen bottled water and she put in some frozen watermelon. Her daughter comes home from school camp that day and she hugs the mom and she says, thank you so much. The water they had at camp was so hot. And I opened my bag and you had this frozen bottle that I got to have. And she, for the first time, ate frozen watermelon and she absolutely loved it. And the mom said to me, if I had told her ahead that's what I was doing, she would initially have said, no, I don't want that. I don't want that, mom. So it was a subtle way that the mom had put some good things in the cooler bag and the daughter came home grateful and was thrilled with it. I just thought it was a great story.
And frozen grapes also, when you're at the beach, they go a long way.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. Any other items to put in that cooler on our way to the beach? Noreen, what would you put in your cooler?
Like I was saying before, anything that contains minerals, electrolytes, just because we're sweating and we're depleting our body of those essential nutrients. So coconut water, mineral water, or anything like a Gatorade, maybe a lower sugar option.
Saria?
Well, the Dominican me will say spaghetti and rice, but I don't do that often. But I would say my family is big on bringing sandwiches so that we didn't have to go out on the boardwalk to go get something to eat. So just packing food in your cooler, like whatever it is, if it's tuna fish that you can eat with some crackers or sandwich that you can build up at the beach without getting sand in it. Those are things that are quick and easy that are going to make sure that you're eating, because sometimes we'll be in that sun all day long and not eating, drinking up a storm for folks that do drink. And we really need to make sure that we're taking care of our bodies, even though we're outside having fun.
Denise?
So I also like to do some cucumber slices with some salt on it in a container so they're easy to get. I also like to have some oranges or clementines, but I peel them ahead and put them in plastic bags because when you're at the beach and it's sandy and you have sunscreen, I don't really like to peel it and eat it then. So, having that in a plastic bag in the cooler, I think is good. And I'm holding up one of my beverages that I like for the beach. It's an unsweetened lemon iced tea. I enjoy that. I find it super refreshing as well.
Ilani? And you have a big family, so you probably have to pack a lot.
Yeah, I mean, for me also, everything that people have said, packing up cut up fruit. I love, my favorite fruit is cantaloupe. So melon and all these fresh fruits that are even more amazing in the summer, containers of that. I think you can pack a really good salad or buy a salad on the way. And cool beverages I think are great. I also think though that sometimes when we eat fruits and vegetables, they're not that filling. So just remembering, if you're going to the beach the whole day, you should bring almonds and other, they sell a lot of different types of chips, pretzels, other things that you might see other people having and you're like, oh, I should have brought other stuff to fill me up as well. You can also buy like turkey slices that already come like in the containers that you can open up while you're there.
Well, thank you. We only have 5 minutes left, so that gives us like a minute per person. So can you, if somebody says, in this case, it will be me. What do I do in order to have the perfect beach body? And you can share only one tip. What would that be? Noreen, we're going to start with you.
Eat nourishing foods that make you feel energized.
Thank you. Sariet?
Yes, I think I would say to do things that's going to make you feel good in your body and see how you feel when you're doing those things and have fun when you're here on earth to have fun and all that stuff. So when you're at the beach, have fun too, like go in the water, swim, play football. Me and my friends play football when we go to the beach, like stay active and just celebrate the body that you're in regardless of how it looks.
Denise?
So I would say stay hydrated first and foremost. Nobody wants to ruin a beach day with a nasty headache. and bring your boogie board to the beach. I love waves. I love getting on a boogie board, and you're never too old to do any of these things. And it's just like you said, have fun, have a great time, and enjoy.
Ilani?
So the question was how to have a perfect beach day, right? That was
Perfect beach. If I say, you know, how do I give me one tip to get a perfect beach body?
okay. So one tip I would just say plan ahead. Right. So I think everything in life, if we plan ahead and we have goals, then we can achieve whatever it is that we're looking to achieve. And everyone will have different goals, but planning ahead, like with everything in life, is important.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for all this expertise and all these tips. I'm sure that our attendees will have something to try and something to choose from all the tips that we have shared today. And again, being perfect is really within ourselves. It's not, I love how Noreen pointed, it's not the media that determines what's a body perfection, right? Is really being healthy, doing and feeling great, doing what makes us happy. And thank you so much for sharing all those tips. And thank you to our attendees. Next week, if you want to join us again, but I hope so, we're going to be having another set of dietitians because we're going to be talking about children who are picky eaters and what we can do in order to help them eat healthier, or not, but to eat, because sometimes for mothers, it's just very hard to have their children eat any food at all. So if you have any kids that are like that, or you would like to just learn more about how to feed children, just join us next week. And thank you so much to all of our attendees, Noreen, Denise, Ariel, Ilani, thank you. And I will see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.